JP Shadrick, Mike Dempsey, and Brian Sexton have all the news and information to get you ready for today's game.
Into the end zone, touchdown!
The Publix Tailgate Show is brought to you by the University of Florida, Farah and Farah, Yucatan Guacamole, Baptist Health, and by EverBank. The Publix Tailgate Show starts right now.
Well, hello, good morning from Wembley Stadium in London, where it is misting lightly on a cloudy day. It's England, it's October, and the Jaguars are back at Wembley Stadium for a showdown with the New England Patriots today. I'm Brian Sexton here at Wembley. Mike Dempsey is back at the Hyundai Studios in Jacksonville. We welcome you to the first hour of the Publix Tailgate Show. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure. The Patriots and Jaguars come your way at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. In case you're interested, that is 2:30 here in London. Mike, how are you?
I'm well, Brian, and I'm ready for you this time. 65 degrees here with winds out of the north at 8 miles per hour with a high of 74 under partly cloudy skies this afternoon. How about that?
Listen, I knew you would be ready this week, Mike. You wouldn't miss it. And by the way, we're to be told that the weather has been nothing short of spectacular back home in Jacksonville since we left. We hope that
we'd
somehow
like to
it will
keep
stay
it
that
way when you get back. Don't bring any of that cold London air with you, please.
We may have to bring just a little bit to balance it out, but that's enough for the weather at this moment in time. And I promise you, well, I won't promise you that at any point we'll talk about the New York Yankees and the 41st American League pennant. But congratulations to you and your baseball team. That's kind of America's team, I guess. Anyway, moving right along. The Jaguars are hoping that they can plug some leaks, Mike. I'll be honest with you. It's been a long week for this football team over here after a disastrous performance. Self-inflicted disaster last week at Tottenham. The penalties, the drop passes. Oh, man, the mistakes were just crushing. And on Monday, Doug Peterson did what he said a few weeks ago he didn't think he could do, which was stand in front of a group of Gen Xers and go to the board, show them all their mistakes in front of one another. He was asked that question before the Jags played the Colts, and he was talking about Tom Coughlin's style of coaching. And what was interesting is on Monday, he got real honest with his football team. I'm sorry, Mike. I'm looking for your commentary there.
I'm sorry, Brian. I was looking for Doug's commentary there.
I'm coming with that one.
No, I got you. Hey, listen, I don't know what you have to do at this point in time to kind of wake up this team. I'm sure Doug Peterson has tried a lot of different things. I think brutal honesty is certainly, in the realm of what you need to be doing right now. I mean, what's been happening this season is just not good enough, whether it's been effort. And really, that was the storyline to me coming out of that game last week. Andre Sisco saying he saw a lot of quit out there. Trevor Lawrence talking about how fragile this team was, or the fact that they couldn't afford to be fragile, and then throughout the week, Ryan Nielsen was asked about those comments. He said, look, what we're going to do, we're going to, the way you remedy that is play hard, as if, at least opening the door to suggesting that not everybody was at all times. I don't think the effort has been great. I don't think the energy has been great for this football team. And there are a lot of self-inflicted mistakes, but, the other team's going to capitalize on those. Chicago made some mistakes as well. You've just got to be able to get past that. And you certainly, as you alluded to with the drop passes, you cannot drop 4 touchdowns and would-be touchdowns in the same game. Even though they later got a touchdown on one of those drives where they dropped a couple of them, one by Gabe Davis, one by Brian Thomas Jr., it still saps a lot of momentum out of you. Instead of hitting that big play, doing it quickly, saving some time, thinking we're back into this. You've had a couple of failures. We finally get it. It's kind of like too little too late at that point in time.
No, I couldn't agree more. All right, we got a lot to get to. And the word this week was there was energy on the practice field, that they had a really good week on the practice field, and that this team is up for the challenge. And I asked Doug Peterson on Monday if he was up for this challenge, because on Monday morning after the Cowboys' really disappointing loss to the Detroit Lions, Mike McCarthy stood there defiantly almost in front of the media and talked about relishing the challenge, being up for the challenge. So I wanted to hear if the Jaguars head coach was in that same mindset.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, look, we're 1-5. We are where we are. We've, as they say, if you make your bed, you got to lie in it, right? And so that's where we're at. And it's a great opportunity for us to really turn this thing, and again, you just want to go out and play good football, and fight and scratch and claw and win a game, right, and try to get things going in the right direction. So I understand, where he's at, and obviously where we are, and that's why I feel like even today the guy is being in a good spot and emotionally ready for another opportunity.
Mike, they've got an opportunity here today against the Patriots, who are 1-5. They've lost 5 in a row. The record's exactly the same. They're coming in with a rookie quarterback making his second ever start. And this is a team that the Patriots head coach, Gerard Mayo, said is in rebuilding phase, and rebuilding takes more than 1 year, let alone 1 month of the season. So the opportunity would seem to be there today.
Granted, they're not as far along as Chicago, but Chicago played a rookie quarterback last week, although Caleb Williams has started all 6 games for the Bears this year. But look, when you get a chance to kind of get your feet wet in the National Football League, you can take advantage of that. And, that's what the Patriots are able to do to get going last week. And you saw the productivity. They got behind big. But you look at this Jaguars secondary, Brian, they need Tyson Campbell back in a big way because they haven't done a great job of covering anybody recently. The tight end has been a particularly sore spot with Cole Kmet. They glanced in his general direction last week. So, I think, New England's going to come in here looking at this much like Jacksonville is. Jacksonville's like, all right, this is maybe one of the easiest games we have left on the schedule. For the Patriots, they're thinking the same thing. If we're going to get some wins, today is probably one of the most likely ones we can get the rest of the season. And I don't blame them for feeling that way.
Well, and the Jaguars players probably feel that way, but they also understand they haven't done enough for themselves to feel overly confident. And quarterback Trevor Lawrence seemed to have a heightened sense of urgency. We've said that before this season, but it was noticeable from him in his media sessions. Heading into Week 7, he explains why.
We have to get some momentum going in the right direction, and we can't let this keep going in the wrong direction and keep losing. The season is moving quickly, and we need to win some games to get ourselves back in position. So we understand what we have to do, but you can't jump ahead, and we got to just try to take care of business this week.
Momentum is something that has not existed for this team this year. And I'm not sure how much you can bring home from London, but certainly a win would give this team something to feel good about, which they haven't had much this season.
Right. I'm not worried about stacking wins. We got to get the first one to begin a streak. And obviously it wouldn't be the first win of the season, but the Jags, Brian, as we know, they've get blown out a couple of times, and they've lost most of their close games, with the exception being the Colts. So I don't really care what fashion it comes in today, as long as we don't have a rash of injuries. You just got to find a way to get your second win and come back. If you lose to the Patriots, the fan base, all the wins going to be out of their sails. You've got a lot of much more difficult games, at least on paper, coming up on the schedule. I don't even want to think about what 1-6 would look like.
No, and listen, getting a win today would give you the chance to come home and talk about, I'm not even talking about playoffs at this point, or stacking wins. I think you're right on in that area. But you've got 10 more games after this one today.
Right.
And this was a football team that came into the season with expectations. Whether those expectations are out the window right now or not, they still have a chance with 10 games after this one remaining to play good football, whatever the record ends up, to leave people with a good feeling about where this team is.
Well, absolutely. And look, last year when the Jags were playing well in the beginning of the season, they started 8-3, right? And they finished 1-5 down the stretch and ended up 9-8. Again, it wasn't good enough to win the division. Well, go 8-3 the rest of the way, and you'll have a third consecutive winning record, and at least you'll have your hat in the ring. But again, I'm not anticipating that because they've found so many different ways to lose football games this year. But it becomes less and less possible. And like you said, just play better. And it's not just enough to play better. The quality of football, it has to result in victories, because there are no moral victories in the National Football League. And yeah, it would help a little bit to feel like this team is playing better. But if you're still giving up more points that you're scoring, it's not going to satisfy you in a season that you had a lot of expectations for.
Well, you said go 8-3, and at one point this week I realized, well, they started 8-3 last year, and then they went 1-5, and now they've started 1-5, maybe 8-3. Who knows? At least give yourself a chance for a strong finish, and we'll define what that is in the weeks ahead. One way that they can get that started today is for the offense to start functioning at a level like we expect it to. And Press Taylor, the offensive coordinator, believes that they can. He's seen it, but they have to prove it on Sunday against the Patriots.
You want to try to sell to your guys. There's times early in the game we felt like we drove down the field. We had an opportunity to touchdown. We didn't get it. but you do feel that momentum on the sideline. All right, we can establish a tempo or a way we want to play right here in this game that, yes, it didn't result in the touchdown we want, but this is a long game. This is what we're capable of doing against this defense. This is the message we want to be able to send. So there's a lot of positives you can build off through the course of the game, and it's about keeping the right mindset throughout the course of the game, because the first drive is not going to dictate a win or a loss. It's going to set a standard for the way you want to perform throughout the course of the game, but it's a long game, and it's going to take all 65, 70 plays, all 60 minutes to play the game.
Mike, I might be the only one, but when Gabe Davis dropped that ball in the end zone to cap off the first drive and they settled for a field goal, I had a very poor feeling about what the outcome was going to be. It may not decide it, okay, and it certainly doesn't. But this team needs to go down the field and get a touchdown, not a field goal today.
Right. But I think that's part of the problem is you're feeling that, oh, no, we let one opportunity to get a touchdown go. Where does that leave this team? Goes back to Trevor Lawrence's comments about we cannot be a fragile team, right? Did that throw them off? Brian, they went 3 and out on defense. They drove down the field, nice methodical drive, should have scored a touchdown, settled for 3, and then the defense went 3 and out again. So you've got the ball right back. Don't sit there and pout or be upset about your missed opportunity. You got the ball with the lead, go do it again. And they did nothing. They went 5 and out on that series, 3 and out on the next couple, and that was the half. And by that time, they'd fallen behind in a hole that they weren't going to recover from with Chicago. So they can't. I agree with you. It did feel like the wind came out of their sails, but that's a problem if you have some kind of miscue on the opening drive and you feel like that sets them up for failure for the rest of the day.
The defense started strong, as you just alluded to, and then gave up 5 touchdown drives in the next 6 for the Bears, put the game out of reach. The offense obviously contributed to that at various points, going 3 and out. So the defense, and you mentioned this, has not played that well. But the defensive coordinator, Ryan Nielsen, has seen enough, he's told us this week, to know that they can play better, that they can get the job done, but they just have to see it.
Love how we started last week. 2 3-and-outs, guys were playing fast. But then all of a sudden, some of the things started showing up that you don't want to show up. And the third drive in the game, there's some plays that happen that if we just would have been, in the right place and executed our job, on maybe a little bit different outcome. So that's where we're just staying the course with the guys. And then, throughout the season, you've seen games that we've had stretches and, we've got off the field in 6 straight drives in some games and things like that. And so that's what we're focusing on. Guys, we can do this. We've done this before. Now let's just put a whole football game together.
And I think if they're going to get it done today, it's going to come up front, Mike. We can talk about the return of Tyson Campbell and, changing some of the defensive coverages. Ryan Nielsen talked a little bit about that earlier in the week. But this front 7 was supposed to be dominant. They haven't been. They need to be if this team is going to play better on defense.
Well, and they've got an opportunity today because New England's offensive line is no great shake. So, will we see Ryan Nielsen maybe dial up a few more blitzes than he typically does because you want to pressure a rookie quarterback making only his second start? I agree with you. Look, Ramondre Stevenson is questionable. He's expected to play today. Don't let him get started. Make this team one-dimensional. With all that depth that we've always raved about at defensive tackle, let's be a run-stuffing unit today and then force Drake May into some obvious passing situations so we can get the pass rush going. I agree with you. I'd like to see it play out that way, but they've got to prove to us that they're capable of doing it.
The Jaguars did make news this week, trading Roy Robertson Harris away. He went to Seattle. That means opportunity for youngsters Mason Smith and Jordan Jefferson, both who have played extended time in the last couple of weeks. Smith, in particular, saw the opportunity opening up for himself.
It does bring me a good opportunity, just to be able to, get in on some third down reps and stuff like that. And, just put myself in a better position, better situation. So, I'm looking forward to it. And, I'll do it. I'll do what I can with it, and we'll see how it goes.
At times in training camp, he was unblockable. They would like to see some more of that Mason Smith today.
Yeah, look, I think where he's really shown up in training camp and practices is in some of those one-on-one reps when he doesn't really have to think. Like, beat the man in front of you, and I think you're starting to see him get a little bit more acclimated in that kind of team concept on Sunday afternoons. And now the opportunity is there without Roy Robertson Harris for a multiple of these young players to step up and make their presence felt in the interior of that defensive line. Brian, we again talked about how much depth that they had. Well, it's one thing to have depth. It's another to have quality depth. And they haven't been playing up to the standard we thought they would so far this year.
We did see some signs of life from Jordan Jefferson last week.
Mm-hmm.
Showed his strength, moving some guys, filling some gaps. Again, you're talking about rookie players. They've got to play the scheme. They've got to do their job, all those things. It becomes a little shaky at times. Jaguars know, though, that if they're going to do something with their defensive front, Mike, they've got to get it done with those guys up front. Well, coming up on the Publix Tailgate Show, we have much more ahead, including...
As O-line, we preach last second, first second, so we try to do our best to finish every play.
That's offensive tackle Anton Harrison, who knows that he needs to play better this week as well. He'll talk to us exclusively in this week's Baptist Health Player Interview. But up next, CBS Sports senior writer Pete Prisco's perspective. This is the Publix Tailgate Show, and you're listening on Jaguars Radio.
It's game time, Jaguars fans, and Publix knows that football is all about pairings. A high-scoring offense paired with a stingy defense. A rocket-armed QB paired with a dynamic wide receiver. And at Publix, you can pair hot deli chicken tenders with savory dips, delicious sub-platters with ice-cold beverages, and you can pair these tailgate essentials with an entire parking lot full of Jaguars fans chanting, Duval! Gear up for your tailgate at Publix, the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Sims Crane and Equipment is the Southeast premier crane rental company since 1959, serving Florida, Georgia, and Alabama with cranes up to 800 ton for all of your heavy lifting needs. Sims Crane is the Tadano rough terrain crane dealer for the state of Florida. Inspired by the past, committed to the future. Choose Sims Crane and Equipment for all of your heavy lifting needs. Sims Crane is a proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Brooks Rehabilitation is proud to be the official rehabilitation partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. We are here for them, and we are here for you. Ranked #1 physical rehabilitation hospital in Florida by U.S. News and World Report, our playbook is individualized treatment and exceptional care to get you back to living your life. Brooks has cutting-edge technology and therapy solutions in every care setting, treating sports injury, orthopedics, brain, spinal injuries, and more. Go beyond your expectations with Brooks Rehabilitation.
Mr. Chubby's Wings is a whole lot more than just wings. Craving the ultimate game day experience? Look no further. Swing by Mr. Chubby's and indulge in the biggest and best wings in town, all while soaking up the lively atmosphere with fellow sports fans. With plenty of game day specials and locations on the West Side, Fleming Island, Ponte Vedra Beach, and new this season, EverBank Stadium, they're here for all your game day needs. Mr. Chubby's Wings is a proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Mr. Chubby's Wings, before the game, after the game, and during the game.
Ancient City Brewing is celebrating 30 years of Jags football by becoming the proud craft beer partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. And what better way to celebrate a throwback year than to throw back some of their expertly crafted beers? From Augustine's Orange Amber Ale to their Castillo Coconut Porter, there's always something new to discover at Ancient City Brewing, including the new First and Gold Golden Ale, coming soon to a Duval County store near you. Ancient City Brewing, taste history, make history, and please always drink responsibly.
You've been putting back a few, and a few becomes a few too many. For a moment, you think of calling for a ride, but nah, you live nearby. What's the worst that could happen? You get pulled over, your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone. The results of driving drunk are tragic. That's why law enforcement is out there looking for impaired drivers to save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. Drive sober or get pulled over.
Paid for by FDOT.
Brian Sexton in London. Mike Dempsey is with us from the Hyundai Studios inside the Miller Electric Center back in Jacksonville. 2:30, the kickoff. 9:30 for those of you back home in Jacksonville from Wembley Stadium here in London. And Mike, you caught up with Pete Prisco stateside. What do you have to say?
Oh, I did, Brian. And, we talked about what I felt really was the theme of the week, more about the kind of mental makeup of this football team. Again, going back to Andre Sisco's seen a lot of quit comment, Trevor Lawrence saying that they can't afford to be fragile, Doug Peterson having to answer questions multiple days this week about the kind of the psyche of this team. I asked Pete what he made of all this kind of stuff floating around.
Well, there certainly are a lot of plays where you can see guys like not putting a full effort in and jogging and not finishing blocks and not playing to the whistle. There's certainly a lot of that when you watch the tape. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And so, Cisco probably feels, and by the way, he hasn't exactly played up to expectations either, though he's better last week. But he feels like that's going on there. Maybe he feels like he could light a spark. So it's never a good thing to put it out in public. It's great for our business. It's wonderful for, Brent Martineau, who got him to say it. But the reality is, from a team standpoint, that's just, not a very smart thing to do. And I think it is a problem.
All right, beyond using the word quit, Trevor Lawrence described the team not being tough enough by saying we can't be fragile. Doug Peterson said we got to fix the culture of the team. How do you fix that? How do you fix a mindset and a culture mid-season?
Well, I think, when Trevor talks about being fragile, I think he's talking about when something goes wrong, they curl up in the fetal position and go home. And you can't do that. It's always going to be a league where you have, periods where you don't play very well. And I think he's talking kind of about the opening drive last week. You go down the field, Gabe Davis drops what should have been a touchdown pass, should have a 7-0 lead. You look up, it's 3-0, and they weren't the same after that. They just didn't get any rhythm offensively after that. And I think that's what he's talking about. So I think you got to be able to be tough-willed, tough-minded, and put that stuff behind it, because there's going to be periods of games and even games where you're not very good. That's just the NFL, and they haven't done a great job of dealing with, the bad times, and they also, back to last year, didn't do a great job of dealing with the good times. And so I think there's something there that they need to fix.
All right, let's take a look, Pete, at the matchup today in London, of course, with another rookie quarterback in Drake May, not as highly heralded as Caleb Williams coming out and not as experienced so far at the NFL level, but he did throw 3 touchdowns in his starting debut last week. The Jags elected not to blitz very much on a rookie last week in Caleb Williams. Do you think that'll change today?
I don't know if it will change, because that's not what Ryan Nielsen wants to do. Even though it's necessary at times and he needs to do more of it. That's not his belief. But, the offensive line for the Patriots isn't very good. It took him a while to get going. He held the ball early in that game. He did get hit. So I think there's an opportunity, even with 4 guys, to get after the quarterback. The problem with Jacksonville is they don't rush the passer from the interior at all. And so when your ends are doing all the pass rushing, the quarterback can just step up and step away from him and throw a shot down the field. So I think that's something to keep an eye on going forward, is if they can muster any sort of pass rush from the middle of that defense, because they haven't done a very good job of it.
How much of the coverage issues on the back end will be fixed or at least improved by a return from Tyson Campbell?
Well, Campbell's, he's their best cover player. He's, paid like he's one of the best cover players in the league. You can argue that all you want. He's not, but he's a better cover player than what they have on the field. Now the question becomes, what do you do with that position if he does come back? And when he comes back, he's one of those guys, Mike, where he's not elite cover player, but he's a good one. But the other side hasn't been great either. I mean, that's been a problem over there too. Montero Brown's had his moments where he's been beat, but he's been at least competitive and he plays hard. So they have some decisions to make. I think getting Campbell back will help the coverage unit. You would think the money he's making, it certainly should.
Other than just hanging on to the football that hits you in the hands, and the Jags had a spate of drops last week, and we've all seen the numbers since Trevor Lawrence came into the league. His receivers have dropped the most passes of any quarterback out there by a considerable margin, Pete. So other than just simply catching the catchable ones, what can this team do to become more efficient in the red zone?
Quit making mistakes. The touchdown pass that Davis dropped on the opening drive, they still overcame 2 mistakes to even be in that position, because they had the false starts. And that's been something that bugged them all year long. Every time they get into an area to score, they make a mistake. And they're in 2nd and long, or 1st and long. I mean, 1st and long, 1st and 15, and 1st and 20. You just can't do that. And I think that's the focus where it has to be, is no mistakes when you get in the red area, so you're not behind the chains. And I think that's something they got to look to and really focus on this week.
You would think the Jags are going to play with an incredible sense of desperation today, or at least have that. You can't go 0-2 in London, come back at 1-6. I mean, I suppose you can, but, I know we both thought they could be competitive last week. They weren't. This week you're playing a New England team that is among, on paper, the worst in the league. You could say the same about Jacksonville, though. So how do you think it goes?
I think Trevor Lawrence plays better. And I didn't think he played poorly last week. I think he plays better, and I think they do a good enough job on a rookie quarterback to find a way to win the game. Look, Caleb Williams and their run game got it going, but last week, I think this is a different animal. I think this offensive line has major issues. I think Jackson will be able to defend them better. And I'll say this, Mike, if they don't, major problems going forward.
Well, there you go, Bri. I mean, obviously, you lose to a rookie quarterback for the second consecutive week. There's going to be the heat turned up from the fan base, no doubt about it. But, I mean, all you can do is go out there and play the team in front of you today. I did find it interesting. I don't know if you caught this as we talked about Doug Peterson's change the culture comments. Bill Belichick, I guess, was asked about this and basically said, I don't know what he's talking about. You know, he's been there for a few years. What you've built is your culture right now. So I don't know what they can do to change anything other than just going out there and making the plays that have presented themselves and go out there and win a football game. Winning then, you win games, winning becomes your culture. However you get there, teams do it in a lot of different ways. So I don't know of a Jaguars team that's been more desperate for one of those W's in a while, Brian.
I'm with you on that. And the culture word that I would use is toughness. When you play certain teams, whether it's the Steelers or the Ravens, or the 49ers, a great example, you're going to have to be tough. And the Jaguars have not fared well against those teams recently because they haven't been tough enough. I'm not sure how you change that midseason. There's a toughness factor, and quietly, it's been something that's been talked about in recent weeks. They have got to mentally become a much tougher, more resilient football team, and we'll see if the head coach has a solution for that, or more importantly, the players individually themselves and then together as a group have a response to that. I think it's on them. Our player interview today is presented by Baptist Health, changing healthcare for good. Offensive tackle Anton Harrison is thought to be a cornerstone for Doug Peterson's football team. He's a young player, getting better, and obviously getting tougher through this losing streak. But he knows it's on him to be ready to go every day and to play better today than he did last week. He's got to be able to do that to help this football team, and he's got to stay focused.
So for me personally, just get ready for coming out of practice. I kind of stay to myself. So once we got the meetings, I kind of just put my headphones on, just relax a little bit, and just get ready, do my pre-practice stuff. But other than that, I just stay in my head, get ready, and just go out there and play.
You've won at every level that you've played at. This is the first real losing stretch I think you've had. How do you deal with that personally, and do you use that as motivation?
Oh, definitely. I hate losing. Everybody hates losing. So that's definitely extra motivation to win. Just come out here, just try not to think about it. It's in the back of your head. Whatever the record is, that we have a losing record, but we still have time to change it, still have time to fix it. So just keeping that positive mindset and just keep going on every day.
Tell me how important it's been to have all five of you together now going into Game 7. I know the results haven't been there, but you didn't have that at all in your rookie season. What's that meant?
It's big. Just having the same five out there. We're building every week. We're getting better every week, and I feel it. We all feel it. We all see it, and just that connection, communication, everything. We just taking it day by day and feel like we're just getting closer and closer every week.
Running game has been good the last couple of weeks. Do you see that as something that's starting to click in? And how different is it between Tank and Travis?
The run game is definitely clicking. I feel like just as O-line, we preach last second, first second. So we try to do our best to finish every play, and then that what breaks the backs to run game. Both backs, they're both dominant backs. They're both good backs. So whoever's back there, either we feel like they can do the same thing. They both can make explosive plays. So as long as we do our job, receivers do their job, tight ends do their job, the running backs can make plays.
Two more. How has London been for you? Is it easier year two of being over here 10 days? Do you appreciate it?
Definitely. I enjoy it out here. It's just something different. It's definitely been easier. Just my second year here, kind of knowing what to expect a little bit. So it's kind of just taking it slow, enjoying it.
The final thought is you started 8-3 last year and finished 1-5. You've started 1-5, so there's an 8-3 opportunity here. You have to believe that, right? I mean, whether anyone else does or not, you have to believe that, do you?
Oh, definitely. It's a long season. We 6 games in. It's a 17-game season, so nothing's taken from us. Nothing's over, and we all know that, and we all have that mindset. So we just come in every day knowing, like you just said, we can flip it around just like that. It's week-by-week league, so that's how we're taking it.
Mike, he's one of the guys that I'm most interested in because in training camp, he looked like the toughest. He looked like the talented guy that the Jaguars used a first-round pick on in 2023. But last week at Tottenham, he did not play very well. He acknowledged that privately to me. And if the Jaguars are going to get anything done today, they're going to need their tough guys, their best players, to play well.
Right, and I think we came into this season, Brian, the majority of people who follow this team closely thinking that if there was going to be an issue on the offensive line, it would come from the interior, and it's been the tackles that, for the most part, have let them down. Now, I think Cam Robinson's played better over the last couple of weeks. Anton played well a couple of weeks ago, but for the most part, the guard, center, guard trio has been the strength of that offensive line. So if Anton and Cam could play up to what we think they're capable of, this offensive line could be much better moving forward.
And if they do today, it's a reason for hope heading into not just this game, but into a very difficult stretch when they return to the States after the game tonight. All right, coming up in 15 minutes, Hall of Famer Tony Baselli and Jeff Lageman join us from the booth. But up next here on the Publix Tailgate Show,
we're grinding. Every day these guys come out to work, and, it's one of the hardest working groups I've ever seen.
Staying with the offensive line theme, that's Coach Phil Rouser. He shares some thoughts on the running game and the hard work this team needed to put in this week. The Patriots and Jaguars coming up at 2:30 London time, 9:30 for those of you in Jacksonville. This is the Publix Tailgate Show, and you're listening on Jaguars Radio.
It's game time, Jaguars fans, and Publix knows that football is all about pairings. A high-scoring offense paired with a stingy defense. A rocket-armed QB paired with a dynamic wide receiver. And at Publix, you can pair hot deli chicken tenders with savory dips, delicious sub platters with ice-cold beverages, and you can pair these tailgate essentials with an entire parking lot full of Jaguars fans chanting, Duval! Gear up for your tailgate at Publix, the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Hey fans, it's Tyson Campbell, cornerback for the Jacksonville Jaguars. This season, your game day is getting even tastier with Al's Pizza in the stadium. And every time we get a pick, you'll score. If the Jaguars get one interception, you'll enjoy buy one, get one free pizza at any Al's Pizza location Monday through Thursday after the home game. 2 interceptions, a free dessert. And 3 interceptions, that's a free appetizer. Just tell them you want the Jags pick. Up your game and get your Al's Pizza at the game or any of their locations.
When you show your home love with a natural gas water heater, it loves you right back with more cost-efficient, endless hot water.
Hon, hurry it up, please.
And right now, you'll love earning a cash rebate up to $700 when you install an energy-efficient natural gas water heater.
We're going to be late.
Again.
What? Did you say something, hon?
To learn more and how to qualify, visit peoplesgas.com/rebates.
It's storm season, and JEA is committed to keeping you informed. In the event of a storm, we'll text and email you about the status of your services. We use Facebook and Twitter to post real-time updates. Our live outage map on JEA.com lets you track restoration progress. And as crews work to restore services, our storm outreach team will be in local neighborhoods to answer your questions. Because as your community utility, JEA is here to keep you safe and connected. Your community, your utility.
The kick is up. It's good!
Score winning sub deals this Jaguar season at Firehouse Subs. Receive 50% off on any sub when the Jaguars kick a field goal of 40 yards or more. It's a bold deal for the bold city. Download the Firehouse Subs app for offer details. Redeemable only at participating Jacksonville and Orlando area restaurants. Only available in the Firehouse Subs app.
The power of a great team starts with the right equipment, specialized skills, and the training to win. That's why ASAP Dental Care and the Jaguars have the home team advantage. At ASAP Dental Care, we follow our playbook to perfection to exceed your expectations. Count on us to be there for you 7 days a week to deliver full-service dental care. Score a winning smile with ASAP Dental Care today.
And welcome back to Wembley, where the Publix Tailgate Show continues. Publix, where shopping, of course, is a pleasure. Ryan in London, Mike at the Hyundai Studios Back inside the Miller Electric Center, the Patriots and Jaguars coming up with a 2:30 local kick, which is 9:30 for those of you on the East Coast. And it is time for our weekly commentary from Rick Ballou.
Quit. What a destructive word. And that's what Andre Sisco said after the defense did so this past Sunday against the Bears. This is a big problem. If the effort is gone, then so is the season. So how do you fix it? Well, you begin with trading Roy Robertson Harris and then others to fall before the November 5th deadline. You know, I always believed that guys didn't quit, didn't take plays off. The tape doesn't lie. Stay tuned. Unfortunately, quitting also says that Doug Peterson has lost his team. I hate this because I respect Peterson, but his voice no longer matters. If the Jags lose today, I believe that's it. He will lose his job. It's got to happen. 8 penalties on Sunday, 4 dropped touchdown passes, 4, 2 turnovers, etc. It's not his fault, but it's under his leadership. For one, I'm shocked. I thought Peterson and Trevor Lawrence, that combination would set records here in Duval. Peterson is a good man, and this is the evil side of the business. He's made the same mistake at both stops, Philadelphia and here in Jacksonville, trusting his offensive coordinator, Press Taylor, to call plays instead of doing so himself. Today is pretty simple. Run the ball. The Patriots can't stop it. They allow 130.3 yards a game. That's 19th in the NFL. And it's not like Jacksonville should be in a hole. It's not going to be a 24-7 or a 21-10 type of deficit. The Patriots can't score. They average only 13.8 points a game. Relax. Feed Tank. This should be a Bigsby afternoon. Check that morning where he gets 20 carries and goes for well over 100 yards. Enjoy the game.
Well, you can catch Rick on Into the Night with Rick Ballou weeknights from 6 to 8 on 1010 XL. Offensive line coach Phil Rouser has had a big job getting his group ready to go. A few key injuries during training camp kept his unit from working together until the regular season. And, of course, with a brand new offensive center in the middle of it all, it left them somewhat behind. Now, though, heading into week 7, he believes they're ready to play well because they're doing what it takes on the practice field and in the meeting room every day.
You know, I think the guys have done a really good job taking ownership of their job and trying to find ways to get better every week. And I think that we've been showing improvement as the season's been going on. We just got to continue to grow as a group and as a bunch of individuals playing together, and we're excited about where it's going.
Tell me about the importance of having the same 5 together. You didn't have that at all last year, and here you are going into week 7. How important is that to get where you want to go?
Overall, it's just critical. I mean, continuity in the group is huge, and the guys have done a really good job melding themselves together and becoming really one cohesive unit, and it's been exciting to watch.
What has Mitch Morse and his veteran experience meant to your group?
It's been huge, and him coming in and just being a steady force in there and taking control and command has been really fun to watch the group work around him and whatnot, and then to watch our younger guys learn from him has been huge.
I think you have an interesting mix. You have 7 or 8 guys deep. You haven't had to go that deep yet, but does this strike you as a group where you can plug and play if you need to do that this year?
I really think so. I think that guys have done a really nice job developing, and that's a testament to the veteran leadership in the group and what they've been doing. And we feel comfortable with whoever's got to get in that game.
Tell me about the relationship between the offensive line and the quarterback. I mean, it seems, Phil, like it's a special one because of the way that he stands up for them and that they protect him.
You know, every day they meet together and they do a really good job of just getting together and really they work for each other. And that's what's exciting to see. And Trev does a great job making himself available to us to talk to and work through issues and whatnot. And it's really, there's 6 of them out there, you know, the 5 offensive linemen and Trev at the same time. So it's good to watch that develop and happen.
Last couple of weeks, the running game has really been productive. What's worked? And tell me about how Tank is different than Travis for the guys to block for.
You know, the guys have really done a good job, all 11 coming off the ball. It's been fun to watch the guys compete and grind a little bit. You know, the 2 running backs, really the third with the Ernest, they all possess a little bit of a different style. And Tank, really, we've been able to get the ball downhill in between the tackles really well. And he's done a nice job with his reads and making people miss on the first level. And Travis continues to be Travis. He does a great job in space. He does a great job getting through the line of scrimmage. But they both have a little bit of something different that makes them unique. And when you get Tank in the game, you know, he may hit you and he's going to hit them too. So it's kind of fun.
Two more. It's a passing league. I get that. You have a quarterback and wide receivers. But how important do you suppose the running game is to getting your offense on track where you want to go?
I think the running game's critical. I think the running game opens up the pass game. And if they have to force more guys into the box to stop the running game, then you get guys like BT and Christian Kirk running downfield one-on-one coverage. So I think it's critical to establish the run. It's critical to have efficient runs. It's critical to, stick with it. And that's what we talk about is sticking with it. Because, sometimes you get a 2-yard run. Sometimes you get a 1-yard run. And then sometimes you get a 56-yard run. You never know when those home runs are going to hit, And the running game is really a identity builder for your offense. So that's what we go off of.
How about just as a wrap-up big picture? The team started 8-3 last year, finished 1-5. Started 1-5 this year. What's it take to finish strong this year? What do you see from this group? What do you think it takes? What's a strong finish?
I think overall we have to come out every Sunday and be the most physical team out there. I think that if we go out there and play a physical brand of football, the things will turn. Things will turn for the best, and we're grinding. Every day these guys come out to work. And, it's one of the hardest working groups I've ever seen. So I have faith in what we're doing here, and it's gonna turn.
Mike, the key phrase from that 5-minute interview was be the most physical team on the field. We have not seen that this season, early against Miami before things went south in the third quarter, maybe. That's the key. This team has to have a physicality about them and a mental toughness about them on the field today and every day the rest of the way. That's got to be the thing that changes the most.
Oh, sure. And to the physical aspect of it, I agree with Rick Ballou from that earlier commentary. I mean, look, I'm anticipating we're not going to see Travis Etienne today. I don't know that, but by elevating Jake Funk off the practice squad, I think that's a pretty good tell yesterday.
I think you're right.
Right? Bigsby is a physical between the tackles runner who's shown some, I think, surprising long speed, and I want to see them really get behind him today and let him have those 18 to 20 carries and see if he can have one of those, another one of those 100-yard games. He had one earlier this year. So I agree with Rick and I agree with Phil Rouser. You got to impose your will today. And I think oftentimes, usually it starts with the offensive line. So let's get after it.
Well, if they're going to do that today, then Tank has got to hold on to the ball.
No doubt.
Remember, there's a light mist here and the field is wet. The ball will be wet in the last 2 weeks. Now it's been punched out, right? The ball has been punched out against him. Not last 2 weeks, against the Browns and then against last week against the Bears on kickoff returns. So he, who has a reputation for not being strong holding the ball, you're going to have to protect the ball. It was on the ground 4 times last week. 4 times.
Right. And look, those were on the kickoff returns that you cited. He also lost that one going into the end zone against Indianapolis that he was fortunate enough to recover. So, he's put the ball on the ground a few times. It has not come back to hurt them. But that was the reason, Brian, that he did not have that rookie season that everyone was anticipating. They lost trust in him early. Can't afford to have that happen today, or we're going to see a lot of Dearness Johnson on the field.
Listen, you have heard me say this. He has the biggest, most powerful hands of nearly any player that I have ever encountered. Hold the point of the ball and don't let it go. Well, if you're looking for the MVP of the truck game, check out the 2024 Ford F-150. It's loaded with impressive capability and game-changing tech. You can dominate work, play, and everything in between. Test drive an F-150 at your local Ford dealer. They're a proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Well, coming up at 10:30 Eastern, hour 2 of the Publix Tailgate Show, JP Shadrick jumps in. But when we return, Jaguars analyst Jeff Lageman and Hall of Famer Tony Baselli are right here with me. The Jaguars and Patriots on deck in Week 7, kickoff 2:30 here in London, 9:30 back home in Jacksonville. You're listening to the Publix Tailgate Show, and this is Jaguars Radio.
It's game time, Jaguars fans, and Publix knows that football is all about pairings. A high-scoring offense paired with a stingy defense. A rocket-armed QB paired with a dynamic wide receiver. And at Publix, you can pair hot deli chicken tenders with savory dips, delicious sub platters with ice-cold beverages, and you can pair these tailgate essentials with an entire parking lot full of Jaguars fans chanting, Duval! Gear up for your tailgate at Publix, the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Champions are built from the support and encouragement they get from the team around them. No one knows that better than Jacksonville Jaguars wide receiver Brian Thomas Jr.
As one of the nation's largest pediatric health systems, Nemours Children's Health gives hope to future champions every day to go well beyond their limits. Together, we can redefine children's health. We are Nemours Children's Health.
Hey, Jags fans, Extreme isn't always about heat. It's about flavor. And 505 knows flavor. So wake up those sleepy taste buds with 505's new lineup of premium craft salsa. Powered by the bud-kicking boldness of fire-roasted Hatch Valley chilies, 505 sauces are more than enough to bulk up any simple spread. Ignite your sense of boldness with 505's all-new assortment of fiercely fiery flavors featuring 505's new black bean and corn craft salsa. And of course, 505's award-winning flagship flavor, Southwestern style.
It's storm season, and JEA is committed to keeping you informed. In the event of a storm, we'll text and email you about the status of your services. We use Facebook and Twitter to post real-time updates. Our live outage map on JEA.com lets you track restoration progress. And as crews work to restore services, our storm outreach team will be in local neighborhoods to answer your questions. Because as your community utility, JEA is here to keep you safe and connected. Your community, your utility.
Jaguars fans, huddle up. Do you own a vehicle made in the last 10 years? If your car is outside of factory warranty or with no warranty coverage, get the best defense against expensive auto repairs with CarShield, the official auto protection partner of the Jaguars. With plans to fit every budget, CarShield helps you cover up to 5,000 parts and systems. Call 800-471-1223 now or go to carshield.com/Jaguars. That's 800-471-1223. Coverage varies by plans. View contracts and exclusions at carshield.com.
Headquartered in Jacksonville, Florida, CSI Companies partners with leading healthcare and technology organizations nationwide to deliver workforce solutions. CSI prides itself on building meaningful relationships and provides personalized operations to fuel the success of businesses, both big and small. Whether it's finding the right talent for a job or seamlessly managing a project from start to finish, CSI has 3 decades of experience in getting the job done. This is your workforce solutions reimagined. Visit CSICompanies.com.
And welcome back to the Publix Tailgate Show. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure. Brian in London. Mike is back in the Hyundai Studios. Kickoff at 2:30 London time, 9:30 in Jacksonville. The Patriots and Jaguars just over 2 hours away here at Wembley Stadium. Time now for the first rounds on us.
New York Jets, first-round choice. Jeff Lockerman.
Jacksonville Jaguars have selected tackle Southern California, Tony Vasilli.
The first rounds on us is presented by Ancient City Brewing. Taste history, make history. Jeff and Tony are with me here above the pitch at Wembley Park. Fellas, how do the Jaguars, and let's get right into it.
Wait a minute. It's not a pitch, Brian. It's a football field.
No, it's the pitch. It's a pitch. It's a pitch. We're in the
Not
UK.
today.
It's a pitch.
Not today.
Okay. I'm going to call it a pitch.
All right. Well, I'm glad we could start off on that. How are you, fellas?
Good. How are you, Brian?
It's a
See
perfect October morning, at least October in England.
As long as the rain could back off a little bit.
Well, it has already, right? I mean,
Yeah, I was down there.
latest.
I was down there. There's no real rain right now.
Okay.
I was on the field. It is going to be a slick field, though.
It always is.
But it's extra slick.
Yeah, it's going to be extra. And Tony's right, because, there's always a high humidity content here, and the grass is cut higher than what it is in the States by about nearly half an inch.
Wow.
So the players have to kind of adjust accordingly. So they've got to wear their longer spikes.
I was going to say, Jeff, I was down there, and I saw Phil Rouser, offensive line coach, and I said, Phil, 7 stud day.
Long 7 studs.
7 stud day.
Not the short ones, the longer
The 7 ones. All right. Well, it's time for Finding Solutions presented by the University of Florida, the #1 university in the U.S. News and World Report's #1 state for education. I'm going to ask you to pull out your psychology degrees, fellas, for this one. How do you solve the Jaguars' fragility problem that was presented last week in the post-game show by the quarterback, Trevor Lawrence? Go ahead. I'm listening.
Oh, that's not an easy one. But I believe Trevor is dead on the money. You go back to the first game of the season against Miami, and Etienne puts the ball on the carpet, and all of a sudden you never recovered. I mean, you've got to be mentally tougher. I mean, there's so many different ebbs and flows in a ball game, and typically there's about 3 moments, Tony, ballpark, that are kind of negative towards you, and it's how you react to them and how you respond to them, whether or not you can win or not. Right now, they're not responding very well.
Yeah, I think the mentality, I mean, it's a mental toughness issue, because at the end of the day, you play a game, it's 60 minutes, and you can't get too overwhelmed either way. Good things happen, take a deep breath. Like, you got to still play. Bad things happen, keep going. I remember before my senior year in college, I had John Robinson was my coach at USC.
Great coach.
College
Great
Hall of
coach.
Fame, coach of the NFL, great coach. And he sat me down. He says, Tony, great players. He was talking about the individual, but great players have short memories. If something bad happens, they move on.
Yeah.
If something good happens,
but they have memories.
They move on. They have short memories. Yeah. And I think this team needs to shorten the memories.
No,
because
totally
as
agree.
soon as something wrong happens, you can't go into the tank. You can't go, oh my, here we go again. Oh gosh, the sky is falling. Hey, football, let's go.
Well, and I
60
think
minutes.
This team has had some moments that's been good, but then something bad happens, when something good happens. I mean, so in other words, like last week, for example, offense goes and they close, what was it, like the 9 points, Brian, or something of that nature, and then the Jaguars
11 points.
Defense allows 11 points, and defense allows a drive that had penalties and everything else and a bunch of rushing yards to go down, and the opponent goes down and scores. I mean, you can't have that.
But what compounded that one, which really made it interesting, was in 3 plays, you got 2 sacks. So the defense bowed up, and Josh Hines-Allen gave you one on first down, and then Trayvon Walker gave you a huge one on 3rd down, and that penalty clicked in, and I thought, all right, well, this one's over, right? Because they had been resilient to a point, overcoming things, and then it just seemed to melt away. So, look, I know how I would do it with a youth football team or the Boy Scout troop that I was once in charge of.
Football, though.
Well, 100%.
It
right?
is, but it isn't.
Actually, I don't think it is. I mean,
it is and it isn't. And here, let me just say this. I think, and here's the thing. You can't keep doing something and expecting a different result. And there's got to be some accountability. I think there's going to be some changes today. I don't have any inside information as to how many changes there are going to be. Right. But I think that there will be changes. Some will be subtle, and some will be in the starting lineup, and that's the way it should be.
Well, there was big changes over the week.
Just about to say.
They traded Roy
Harris.
Robinson-Harris, who was playing as many snaps as anybody at both tackle and end.
I don't think it's going to stop there. I think we're going to see playing time percentages change today, especially with a defense that is near the bottom in every statistical category.
All right, so you may not know exactly what's going to happen at this point, but do you have a couple of guys that you got from your tape study?
I'll give you
a couple.
Okay, Devin Lloyd has not been playing well. Okay, he's got eye discipline issues. It popped up last week in a big way. In the back end, you had the 2 penalties by Darby. Okay, you're getting Tyson Campbell back possibly today. So maybe you can do some things there. At safety, Antonio Johnson is not playing well. Cisco was not playing well prior to this past game. So what do you do there? Well, how much flexibility do you have? You were hoping to maybe get Gibson back. Wasn't cleared by the league. But, look, there's other guys that can play safety on your roster. So I don't know what's going to happen exactly, but I've got a feeling that I got a feeling they're going to do something, but I don't know to the extent.
Tony, on the offensive side, you were talking with Phil Rouser, who I spoke with earlier this week, and they've had all 5 starters play all 6 games, which is not something that they had last year, where they had 4 different starters at left guard. Tell me what you've seen from the offensive line and what they've got to do today on a slick field to get the running game going against a team that doesn't play the run very well.
Well, first of all, they got to call it. You got to call it more. This is a team that leads the NFL or is right at the top of yards per attempt.
Well, Bigsby's number 1 in the league.
And so you got to call it more. You got to stick with it. And I think that does a couple things. One, it keeps your defense on the sideline, which right now is a liability. It is a liability. So I think you got to run it. I think overall it is an improved group over last year because they're coming off the ball better. I still think, I worry about Anton Harrison. I think he is not 100%. I think he's beat up, and I think that's being
and if he's not beat up, he's just not playing very well.
But I think it is him being beat up is equating to not playing at the level that he is capable of. We expected him to play. But overall, the protection's been better the last 3 weeks. When they get the chance to run the ball, they run it at a pretty good clip. If it was me, here's the offensive lineman, I would just say put it on our back and let's run it 40-plus times a day in this situation on this field, and let us try to go push around a pretty average to below average defensive front.
Yeah, average.
We got 1 minute left. Guys, they started last year 8-3, and then they finished 1-5. They've started 1-5. What is a strong finish for this football team based on what you know of it, what you saw of it last week? What's a strong finish look like for these guys?
I don't think this team can worry about that. We can. But this team can't have that mindset. And right now that's literally where the world that the Jaguars players need to be living in is the moment of today. I know all the talk in the preseason about, playoffs and best team assembled and, we're going to win the AFC South and we're going to be a contender. All that's out the window. This team needs to worry about 1 week, and thank goodness at least you got some familiarity with being here at Wembley as opposed to a Patriots team that really doesn't with a young quarterback. And let me just add something here real quick, Ryan. I would be so disappointed in today's game if the Jaguars defense did not get after Drake May. The Patriots offensive line, and Tony will agree with me, he's an offensive line guy. He watched the film. The Patriots offensive line.
Not very good.
It's horrible. Okay. 7th different starting offensive line combination this week for the Patriots.
You get the last word. You left no time for Mr. Baselli. Just like
That's
the
a
Senate
miracle.
filibuster working in your behalf. Tony, thank you. Jeff, thank you very much.
I'm not saying anything else.
Listen, I don't believe you. Up next, the second hour of the Publix Tailgate Show. Top stories of the day coming up. JP Shadrick has just sat down next to me, which means I can go for coffee. This is the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.
It's game time, Jaguars fans, and Publix knows that football is all about pairings. A high-scoring offense paired with a stingy defense. A rocket-armed QB paired with a dynamic wide receiver. And at Publix, you can pair hot deli chicken tenders with savory dips, delicious sub-platters with ice-cold beverages, and you can pair these tailgate essentials with an entire parking lot full of Jaguars fans chanting, Duval! Gear up for your tailgate at Publix, the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
You've been putting back a few, and a few becomes a few too many. For a moment, you think of calling for a ride, but nah, you live nearby. What's the worst that could happen? You get pulled over, your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone. The results of driving drunk are tragic. That's why law enforcement is out there looking for impaired drivers to save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. Drive sober or get pulled over.
Paid for by FDOT.
Frank Frangie here. When you want barbecue in Jacksonville, you want Bono's Pit Barbecue. You can find Bono's locations all around town and on game day at EverBank Stadium because Bono's is the official barbecue of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Over 70 years of authentic Southern Pit Barbecue. We are the local barbecue joint in BBQval for generations of people in Jacksonville. Go to bonosbarbecue.com to learn more or call 904-880-8310 today. And remember, if you don't see a pit, it ain't legit.
Want to make sure he gets to the game on time?
Tommy, your uniform is ready. Let's go.
Install a natural gas dryer, and you're guaranteed faster drying times and softer laundry. And now you can earn a valuable cash rebate up to $200 on an energy-efficient natural gas dryer. Show your home love with natural gas, and it loves you right back. To learn more and how to qualify, visit peoplesgas.com/rebates.
Daly's Dash is not only your Jaguars game day stop, but a great place to grab a meal any day of the week. To honor the Jags and the fans, we've crafted the Duval sub. The Duval comes with freshly sliced turkey, ham, melted cheddar, and habanero jack cheese, topped with crisp lettuce, fresh tomatoes, and a double portion of our secret sauce, all served on a fresh roll. Come by your local's Dailies Dash today to get your delicious Duval sub. Dailies is the official convenience store sponsor of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Big Number One Duval Ford is trusted by Duval families, Duval businesses, and law enforcement across Florida. We are Jacksonville's largest Ford dealer by Ford sales, with the biggest service facility to keep everything in your driveway on the road. Shop Big Number One Duval Ford on Cassett Avenue for our low prices and nationally recognized service-first experience. Big Number One Duval Ford, proudly serving Duval since 1916.
The Publix Tailgate Show continues right now.
It's hour 2 of the Publix Tailgate Show. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure. It is week 7. We're 2 hours away from the New England Patriots and the Jacksonville Jaguars under the arch at Wembley Stadium in London. 2:30 UK kickoff time, 9:30 a.m. Eastern, of course. JP Shadrick with you in rainy London. Mike Dempsey at the Hyundai Studios of the Miller Electric Center. And good morning to you, Mike. It's been a couple weeks. How are you?
JP, good afternoon to you. It is not rainy here, but let's hope it's not so slick that the Jags have ball security issues today.
Yeah, the grass a little longer here, about an inch long. It's 5/8 of an inch or so back in Jacksonville, and it's been raining all morning. It's a little spit of rain right now, Mike, and there is wind inside Wembley today. The wind is whipping outside. Of course, there is open air over the field. So the flags atop the goalposts are moving in the breeze inside with all the seats under cover. So it should be an interesting weather day today, and an interesting day for both sides, Mike. Both teams 1-5, 5-game losing skid for the Patriots, and the Jaguars can't get out of their own way right now.
Oh, that's right. And I imagine, JP, that both teams are looking at this game going, hey, we take everybody seriously, but this has got to be one of the best opportunities we have to break through with our second victory. But they're both feeling that way. Drake May got his sea legs under him last week, threw 3 touchdowns in a losing effort. But I think that's a bigger advantage to him to have that game under his belt than it is for the Jags to have a game of tape on Drake May.
Game day weather brought to you by the St. Johns River Water Management District. Florida's water, it's worth saving. 62 degrees Fahrenheit here in London at Wembley. Rain expected to start a little heavier in the next 5 to 10 minutes or so. 100% chance at 1 o'clock, about 50% at 2 o'clock, and then wind throughout the afternoon. It's always in the forecast here, the rain at least here in London. Here are some of today's top stories, starting with head coach Doug Peterson this week, taking on the challenge of turning this team around.
We're 1-5. We are where we are. As they say, if you make your bed, you got to lie in it, right? And so that's where we're at. It's a great opportunity for us to really turn this thing. And again, you just want to go out and play good football, fight and scratch and claw and win a game, right? And try to get things going in the right direction.
Yeah, it would be nice to scratch and claw your way to a victory, but so far it has not been there for this Jaguars team in the recent weeks. And as a head coach, there's not much else he can really do. What else is on his list to get done to get this team motivated? I don't know.
I think he is out of answers there. At times, at least it sounds like that, JP, right? We hear Doug Peterson, he's clearly exasperated, like saying, hey, I feel like we're having these good weeks of practice, and for some reason we're not carrying this over to the game. And I think he's at a loss for why that's happening right now. I think if they had the answer, they would have employed it already. So I think, ultimately, look, it falls on everybody here when you're 1-5. But I think the players, as we saw last week, a lot of drop passes, a lot of mental miscues they've had all season long. They need to clean that up and figure out a way to take that good feeling from the middle of the week to Sunday afternoon.
Let's get to this Jaguars defense, Mike, and it is the worst-ranked pass defense in the NFL. They've had inconsistency, let's say, rushing the passer. They haven't been great on the back end at all, but coordinator Ryan Nielsen said they will continue the message.
Ultimately, we're going to stay the course. That's the biggest thing. We have to, because I think when you start changing, then the players start going, well, it didn't work in the first place, and they start second guessing. So we're going to stay the course. We're going to play together. We're going to play hard. When we turn on the tape, the most important thing that happens, regardless of the outcome of the game, is when we see 11 guys do their job and play as hard as they can possibly play from the snap to the whistle.
All right. Well, according to one of the safeties on this team last week after the game, that didn't happen. They saw a lot of quit in the game. So it's got to start with those 11 on the field.
Yeah, and look, we all saw, I think, examples of guys not sprinting to the ball when we rewatched the game from last week. But you hate to hear that, JP. I mean, that is one of the ugliest words when it comes to sports, is the word quit. And for a guy in Andre Sisco who, this wasn't in the immediate heat of the moment. There's a cool down period. He's dressed. And even when he answered the question, he said, I got to be careful about what I'm going to say. He thought about it, and he still used that word. So it really did have to stand out to him, right? And then, with Ryan Nielsen asked about that, I kind of feel like he used the phrase play hard 3 separate times in the first answer to his first question this week. Yeah. And then he used it again in multiple other answers during his press conference midweek. So, I think that is an indication that they're probably seeing a little of that show up, and they've got to nip that in the bud right now.
No doubt about that. The defense has to get it going this week against a rookie quarterback, of course, but an offensive line that's now starting their 7th different combination up front in New England this week. We'll see if they can get home on Drake May. The offense for the Jaguars last week had a long opening possession against the Bears, but a drop. And that set a tone for what happened in the game last week at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. That drive ended in a field goal. But coordinator Press Taylor said that the success earlier on the drive should build confidence as the game goes.
But you do feel that momentum on the sideline. All right, we can establish a tempo or a way we want to play right here in this game that, yes, it didn't result in the touchdown we want, but this is a long game. This is what we're capable of doing against this defense. This is the message we want to be able to send. So there's a lot of positives you can build off through the course of the game, and it's about keeping the right mindset throughout the course of the game, because the first drive is not going to dictate a win or a loss. It's going to set a standard for the way you want to perform throughout the course of the game, but it's a long game, and it's going to take all 65, 70 plays, all 60 minutes to play the game.
Yeah, there's always a focus, Mike, and you know this, on the first 15 plays or so, and they call it the first few, I guess, depending on what outlook it is. It may not be exactly 15, but some things you want to check off the list early in the game. And it felt like they did some of that on the first drive, and they were doing some of that later in the game. They just dropped the football a lot.
Well, yeah, look, the first drive was a good one with the exception of the one drop pass in the end zone. That would have given them 7. So they settled for 3, JP. But, Brian and I were talking about this in the first hour. This was sandwiched in between a couple of defensive 3-and-outs. So, this goes back to Trevor Lawrence in the postgame talking about we cannot afford to be fragile, right? And this is where we've seen all season long. We saw the 1-2 gut punch way back in week 1 of Travis Etienne fumbling the ball. The next play, Tyreek Hill's going 80 yards for a touchdown, right? And the Jags, even though they're leading after all that, didn't really recover mentally. Same thing last week. That it felt like, at least, that the opportunity to get 7 went through their fingers. They still got the ball back with that 3-point lead. They did nothing with it. 5-and-out, 3-and-out, 3-and-out. So they did get it going a little bit in the second half, but by that time you're down multiple scores. They've got to find a way just to not let an early setback dictate the direction for the rest of the game.
Let's hear from the quarterback, Trevor Lawrence. He's actually played pretty well the last couple weeks in all, right? I mean, not poor performances, giving the ball away everywhere. He's put it right on the hands of receivers, certainly last week, but he's looking forward to another opportunity this week for him and the Jaguars team as a whole.
For us, it's, we've turned the page and we got to put our best foot forward and try to go beat New England this week. So that's where we're at. And I think part of it is keeping the spirits up. And obviously you stay focused and you stay locked in now more than ever, but you also got to have fun. It's still a game and we're still out here getting to do what we love and trying to just enjoy it and not let the pressure of, obviously we need to win a game, but not let that take away the joy of the game. Because I think that helps you play better, honestly.
All right, another one of those comments this week. Hey, got to have some joy for the game. I mean, this is a ringing Big Ben-sized alarm bells to me.
It really is. You know how you have the most joy and fun is when you win, right? So I get what he's saying. Like if you start thinking about, oh, here we go again. If we have a drop early, are we going to think, oh, we're going to have a repeat of last week? And then guys start to press. And so I do understand the desire to play free and loose, but you've got to play better football. They're letting too many opportunities go by the wayside. And, I hate it, but they're beating themselves. I'm not saying that doesn't give credit to the Chicago Bears. They outplayed the Jags last week. But, man, JP, I mean, how many touchdowns can you drop in a single game? The bar is at 4. Let's hope we never find out a game where they go higher than that.
Oh, man, I don't even want to hear it in the postgame show if that were to happen.
Oh, my
That's for
gosh.
sure. You imagine the phone calls? Oh, boy. Of course, a local celebrity this week is back in his home country, the United Kingdom. He is from Wales. It's Lewis Rees-Zammit. He's on the Jaguars practice squad, former rugby player at Gloucester, and then switched to football, American football, through the Pathway program. Was with Kansas City earlier in this offseason as a running back. They let him go. He latched on with the Jaguars now as a wide receiver, and the transition has been a topic here in the UK this week.
It's two different things. Now I'm here, I get to work hard and train all the skills that's needed for me to be in a team. Being a rugby player and wanting to play in the NFL, I knew that I had to do a lot in rugby to be able to get the opportunity to do this. So, when I was playing rugby, my full focus was on rugby, but in the back of my head, I knew that, this was a massive dream of mine and, one that I wanted to chase. And now we're here today. I'm on the Jacksonville Jaguars and, I'm loving every single moment of it.
And he's learning every single day, Mike. It's going to be a long process for him, though. There's the playbook is the one thing for him that is totally different. There's like 10 plays in rugby, apparently. I don't know anything about rugbies. There's like 170 or 200 plays for the Jaguars in their playbook.
Yeah, a little bit more complicated as you lay it out that way, JP. But I think, we've wondered, at least I have, and I think others have as well, why we haven't had that crossover rugby star yet, right? Like, it feels like rugby translates to a couple of positions, linebacker, running back, that one of these days we're going to see these guys shine in the NFL. I think there are some transferable skills right there. But, yeah, definitely a step up in the level of complexity coming here playing American football.
He's a good kid, though. He's 23 years old. He's a grown man. But he is a young grown man, I guess, in the NFL. But getting his opportunity and says he's dedicated to American football moving ahead. Jags fans can't make the game? Well, we get it. You can easily donate your Jags tickets to VetTix military veterans in the community through the Jaguars ticketing account page. Select more on the ticket page and select the game you'd like to donate. VetTix, tickets for troops. And here at Wembley Stadium, the rain beginning again, about as heavy as it's been all morning. Kainani Stevens joining us here at the broadcast position on about the 20-yard line at Wembley. And cheers to you. Good morning. How are you?
Cheers, JP. I know this is your favorite trip of the year, so.
Well, it's my only trip of the year.
I'm just in your world. That's true. That's true. It has to be by default.
It's fantastic. It's been a good couple of weeks of work. And, what did you make of the tone of the team coming out of the game last week at Spurs across town, and then the bounce back this week at the Grove practices, meetings, and now the tone heading into today, one that you have to have?
Obviously, a lot of disappointment. We were here last year. We saw them get a win in their first game, and that was great to then kind of propel them onto their second win, go 2-0 in London. Obviously, you didn't get the win against the Bears. I think sometimes, at least for me, they had an off day on Monday, but other than that, they've been with each other all week. They've kind of had to sit in this and deal with this. You can't go home. You're not getting distracted. You're not with anybody else. So if anything is going to get you focused and kind of understanding where you're at, I think it would have been this week away because there are no distractions for you after your day off because you are there and you are outside of the city. That's all you're dealing with. So I would hope that would give them a refocused effort looking into this. I don't see any fractures in it yet, but as we know, if things don't get better, it can turn into that. But as of right now, it still seems to be all on the same message.
It's kind of teetering, though, on the edge, it feels like.
It's close,
Yeah. Especially with the schedule coming up the next month and month and a half. It is difficult moving ahead for the Jaguars. And defensively is the one that's very concerning, obviously. Early in the year, they were playing pretty well, at least winning enough, to if the offense was settled in, maybe they win some of those games. But now they can't stop anybody in the passing game at all. No pass rush. The back end's been awful. Tyson Campbell is back today, though, so maybe that's a boost for this group.
I think what we're going to see, or what I'm hoping we're going to see, is Tyson Campbell obviously be back in his position. And I think Darby is going to be – they're going to switch him with Monteric Brown a little bit, hopefully seeing a little bit more of Buster Brown just because he's been playing probably the best football we've seen him play. Obviously, Darby struggling in those two crucial penalties against the Bears. So hopefully we will see that. Hopefully that will help out a little. But for me, you got to force some turnovers. That was huge for this team last year. They had trouble defensively at times, but they were able to get takeaways, and that was the biggest benefit of the defense last year. Obviously, the back end, they weren't doing it as much. That's when they struggled. So they've only forced those 2 turnovers so far this season. They really, really could use a couple today, especially against a rookie quarterback who likes to air it out. You would think the opportunity will be there.
Well, you got a rush passer against this offensive line who's now starting their 7th different combination in 7 games.
And the center started 4 days before, got there 4 days before Drake May's first start. So one would think that would be opportunistic. But again, we can't go off paper anymore because nothing goes the way we've been planning lately. So yes, I would love to see them get after the quarterback, hopefully give the rest of the defense an opportunity to force a turnover in some regard. And yes, second week of rookie quarterback. This rookie quarterback literally is playing his second NFL game. So hopefully there is a little bit of inexperience that will show up.
And then, of course, on the other side, how do you reteach or continue to teach a wide receiver core to catch the football when it's in their midst?
Obviously, there's drops last week. I think there is a little more made of that than it needed to be because 3 of those drops came on the same drive where they ended up getting a touchdown. So for me, when they're saying, there's 4 drops that could have been touchdowns, not really because they got the touchdowns. Really only 4 points you lost, which was the Gabe Davis drop in the first quarter. Is that a big deal? Absolutely, it's a big deal because they could have had 7. It changed the tone of the game because of the way this team plays when they are playing from behind. They don't have as much confidence. So they needed that touchdown. I think that affected a lot of things. And also it's coming, with Gabe Davis, we saw in the Colts game, the fumble, catch and fumble, or you're missing it. He's not making the catch at crucial points in the game. So that's an issue for me. I don't see it being an issue with Brian Thomas. I really think that was just kind of a one-off for me. Christian Kirk, we've seen at times be like that this year. So that's a little strange for me. I don't really know where that's coming from. And then, Gabe Davis is probably the focal point that you're kind of concerned about at this point.
What is your favorite kind of English tea?
So I fully adapt to the tea life. I usually go Earl Grey. I'm open to English breakfast. If it's nighttime, we do decaf chamomile. But yeah, I'm open. I will try most teas. I don't really like anything that's gingery or too spicy. I don't like that, but I can do pretty much everything else.
Give me the biscuits. I'll do those here.
Yes, JP, you can have the biscuits.
I'll
drink the tea.
It's just fine.
You can have the beer and the biscuits. I'll drink the tea.
A couple weeks of beer and biscuits. That'll get you right. Kai, enjoy the day today. I know it's a little rainy now. Maybe it'll settle down before kickoff. Appreciate you.
Thanks.
Kai Stevens joining us here at Wembley. We're back with a look around the NFL. In about 15 minutes from now, we'll have the inactives for the Patriots and the Jaguars. Also up next, Neil Reynolds of Sky Sports as the Jaguars prepare for their 13th London game all time. 2:30 kickoff in London, 9:30 a.m. in Jacksonville for the Patriots and the Jags. This is the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.
It's game time, Jaguars fans, and Publix knows that football is all about pairings. A high-scoring offense paired with a stingy defense. A rocket-armed QB paired with a dynamic wide receiver. And at Publix, you can pair hot deli chicken tenders with savory dips, delicious sub platters with ice-cold beverages, and you can pair these tailgate essentials with an entire parking lot full of Jaguars fans chanting, Duval! Gear up for your tailgate at Publix, the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Brooks Rehabilitation is proud to be the official rehabilitation partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. We are here for them, and we are here for you. Ranked #1 physical rehabilitation hospital in Florida by U.S. News and World Report, our playbook is individualized treatment and exceptional care to get you back to living your life. Brooks has cutting-edge technology and therapy solutions in every care setting, treating sports injury, orthopedics, brain, spinal injuries, and more. Go beyond your expectations with Brooks Rehabilitation.
Touchdown at Jaguars away games when you fly nonstop from Jacksonville International Airport. Join the Jaguars in Miami and Houston. Watch them win in Philly, Detroit, Nashville, and Las Vegas. All the other Jaguars games are just one short connection away. And if airport parking has you stressed, be sure to visit the Jax Airport website before traveling to the terminal. On it, you'll find information about the status of on-airport parking in real time. See if your favorite areas are available or if you need to call an audible. Visit flyjax.com for more information.
It's not about how you start the job. It's about finishing what you start. The Ford F-150 truck can help. Get the freedom to choose between available gas, Power Boost Hybrid, or all-electric powertrains, all delivering the power, capability, and efficiency needed to get the job done right. Just another reason why Ford F-Series is the best-selling truck in America 47 straight years. Ford F-150, proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Feeling hungry, Jaguars fans? Fuel your Duval energy with a delicious Stallmeyer all-beef hot dog on game day as you support your Jacksonville Jaguars. Whether you're at the game or at home, it's not game day without a Stallmeyer all-beef hot dog made in Florida. Stallmeyer all-beef hot dogs will fuel your energy to help bring on a victory for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Stallmeyer all-beef hot dogs are available at your local Publix supermarkets. Don't feel hungry, Jaguars fans. Fuel your energy with the official hot dog of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Stallmeyer.
Stuck on what to do with a plumbing issue? Just call the Duck. Duck Rooter are experts at plumbing and are a 5-star Google-rated company. You name it, they do it. Water heater replacements to sewer drain cleaning, leaks to repipes. Fully licensed and insured with highly trained technicians. Trust the Duck to fix it right. Duck Rooter Plumbing and Septic Services.
When you're stuck, call the Duck. 904-862-6769.
JP Shadrick from London, Mike Dempsey in the Hyundai Studios. The Publix Tailgate Show continues, and we're closing in on Week 7 for the New England Patriots and the Jacksonville Jaguars at Wembley Stadium in northwest London. And it is rainy. A lot of the players are out on the pitch early today getting some warm-ups in, and it is a slick track. Walking down there earlier, the grass a little bit longer here and holds the water a little bit more, so long studs needed on the cleats today. Here at Wembley in the rain that should let up by kickoff, but we'll see. I'm not holding them to it. Let's go around the National Football League. Mike, what you got?
All right, JP, while the Jags get set to play the Patriots in London, every other AFC South team will be in action at 1 p.m. Eastern time today. The division-leading Texans are in Green Bay to take on the Packers. Quarterback C.J. Stroud leads the 5-1 Texans, but it'll be without leading receiver Nico Collins for the second straight game. Collins went on IR with a hamstring injury. The Packers are looking for their 5th win in 7 tries. They will, of course, travel to Jacksonville to face the Jags next Sunday. The Colts come into the day at 3-3. They get starting quarterback Anthony Richardson back after a 2-week absence. Indy will be without star running back Jonathan Taylor when they host Miami today. The Colts' top 3 receivers all officially questionable to go, but Michael Pittman Jr., Josh Downs, Alec Pierce, all expected to be able to suit up and at least try to play in today's matchup. And speaking of Miami, their quarterback Tua Tagovailoa will miss his 4th game after going on IR with a concussion. Tua is said to be prepared to return to practice this week, though, and if all goes well, he'll be back in the lineup when the Dolphins host the Cardinals next Sunday. That's the earliest he could return from the concussion protocol. And finally, the 1-4 Titans in Buffalo to take on the Bills. Tennessee expected to start Mason Rudolph at quarterback as starter Will Levis is dealing with a shoulder injury. Running back Tajay Spears out for the Titans today. Elsewhere, Pittsburgh preparing to start Russell Wilson at quarterback tonight when they face the New York Jets on Sunday Night Football. Wilson had seemingly won the job in camp, but a calf injury opened the door for Justin Fields to play. And despite leading the Steelers to a 4-2 record, or at least contributing to a 4-2 record in Wilson's absence, Fields goes back to the bench, although the feeling is that both quarterbacks could play in an effort to utilize Fields' running ability in third down and maybe some red zone packages. And then finally, Detroit's star pass rusher Aiden Hutchinson, done for the regular season following surgery to help repair a pair of broken bones in his left leg. Hutchinson had been leading the league in sacks, pressures, and quarterback hits when he went down against the Dallas Cowboys in Week 6. The surgery this week considered a success. The Lions are hopeful that Hutchinson could be back by the Super Bowl or maybe slightly earlier if they're able to make a deep playoff run. JP?
All right, Mike, thank you very much. Our look around the National Football League. And, of course, the league in London now for a 3rd straight week. 2 games at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium the last 2 weeks. Vikings, Jets 2 weeks ago. Jaguars, Bears last week. Patriots, Jaguars today across town at Wembley. So Neil Reynolds has covered the NFL for Sky Sports here in the UK for a long, long time. He's been around it really since the start of the international series in 2007 in the UK at least. And plenty to discuss with him this week as we sat down ahead of the Jaguars' 13th game in London all time.
It's great to have the Jags back in town.
This is 17 years now since the NFL's played a regular season game here. Obviously, the Jags been coming since 2013. You'd have seen it at Tottenham last weekend. It just never gets old. And the passion is as fervent then as now as it was then. It's incredible to see the growth.
Certainly is. Jaguars have been a big piece of that over the last decade or so, certainly. And, it seems like, at least last year, the home and road back and forth 2 weeks here worked out with 2 wins. That's been a positive. I'm sure Roger Goodell, from hearing from him the other day, he said he learned a lot from having a team over here for 2 weeks.
Yeah, and if you look at what's happened over the years, they've tried so many different things, playing 3 games in a row, playing without teams having a bye week. It always used to be that the bye week was an automatic straight after a London game. Now teams can choose when to have it because they feel comfortable getting in and getting out. So, it's one of the things the NFL likes to do is see different ways that this can run. And the Jags coming in now 2nd year in a row, back-to-back games. I think it's certainly been well received by the fans, by the league. I think everything's worked logistically, and it seems that from a team level, certainly it's not been a bad thing for Jacksonville. So I think it's been a positive across the board.
Neil Reynolds from Sky Sports with us, and from a Jaguars perspective, I think it's the last year of the Wembley deal. Currently, it feels like that's going to come back around at some point. Nothing's been announced as of yet. Having the Jaguars as that base team in what could be an expanding international series over the years. There will always be Jaguars games at Wembley, it feels like.
Yeah, and I think that's good to have that. I think that's a foundation. I think when you look at what the Jags have done coming back year after year, and then by extension, how many games there have been in the UK, that is a comfort blanket that allows the NFL to say, okay, this is how it needs to be done. This is what teams are looking for. And no team's been tested more than the Jags in terms of logistics and what you need to do. And that allows the league to go to Germany, to go to Brazil, to go to Spain next year and beyond. We're going to see games in Ireland. I think we'll see games in France. We'll see games in it. I think we'll see games all over the world. I think this is coming. I think this is only going one way. But the fact that a team comes back year after year and leaves happy, I'm not going to use the word happy, leaves content that everything worked, because obviously there's always a winner and a loser, but content that everything worked the same as if they were in America. That's allowed the league to really expand and spread its wings.
Let's get to the matchup today under the arch of Wembley, battle of 1 and 5 teams. We know the Patriots are a rebuilding group. Mm-hmm. They've actually said that out loud, and they've put in the rookie quarterback now. It'll be a second start coming up against the Jaguars. So where are the Patriots in your mind right now?
So exactly that. I kind of applaud Jared Mayo, the head coach, for saying this season is not about wins and losses. It's about which young players can we rely on by the end of this season to go into 2025. So they clearly have holes in their roster. But to me, they are thoroughly more watchable and more dangerous with Drake May in the lineup. It wasn't perfect against Houston last week, but he gave them life. He threw 3 touchdown passes. He's a fearless player. So to me, that's where everything when I think about the Patriots is all about that. It's a quarterback league. We know that. We know it's a quarterback-driven league, and they have a guy they're going to take a good long look at to see if he can be what Mac Jones wasn't for them, and that's the proper replacement for Tom Brady. So, that's where I start. I start with the quarterback, and with Jacksonville, I want to see the response.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Alarm bells the size of Big Ben are ringing right now around the Jaguars with all that was said after the game last week. When Andre Sisco says he saw a lot of quit out there, when the head coach in his post-game press conference talks about needing a culture change. Those are massive red flags. So the question is, how do they respond? How do they push back? Can they do it? Do they have the guys to do it? These are all huge questions. It's only week 7.
Yeah, that was the most alarming part to me, was that you talk about culture at this stage of the season, because that should be established and shouldn't be really questioned. For that to come from the head coach puts me kind of on alert. This is a must-win game. This is absolutely a must-win game to turn this season around, and it can be done. Look at how they started on defense against the Bears for the first quarter. It felt like every good play last Sunday was followed by a bad play. like the completion to Evan Engram is a pretty decent gain. Then the ball's on the ground. So tidying that stuff up, we know there's talent on this team. That's obvious. And I thought Trevor actually had the exception was the interception when they're chasing the game at the end. You know, Trevor made some great throws. I mean, he threw 3 touchdown passes on one drive. It was just that 2 of them were dropped, right? And then he finally got the touchdown at the end. So it goes beyond like individual performances. This is a team response. This is a gut check game now for the Jags, because win this one against a team that you should be beating, to be honest, and then you've got something you can look to build on when you get back to America. Lose this one, I don't know where it goes from there.
Yeah, good point. That's Neil Reynolds of Sky Sports here in the UK, covering the National Football League. The full conversation on the official Jaguars podcast network. Up next, a pregame huddle up. Bucky Brooks and John Oehser standing by. Inactives are due any moment ahead of this 2:32 local time kickoff, 9:32 a.m. Eastern time for the Patriots and the Jaguars from London. This is the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.
It's game time, Jaguars fans, and Publix knows that football is all about pairings. A high-scoring offense paired with a stingy defense. A rocket-armed QB paired with a dynamic wide receiver. And at Publix, you can pair hot deli chicken tenders with savory dips, delicious sub platters with ice-cold beverages, and you can pair these tailgate essentials with an entire parking lot full of Jaguars fans chanting, Duval! Gear up for your tailgate at Publix, the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
The warm, buttery, and sweet aroma of freshly baked pretzels wafting through the air. No, ladies and gentlemen, you're not imagining it. EverBank Stadium is now home to Annie Ann's iconic pretzels. Jags fans can get a hot and handmade pretzel to enjoy during the game. Your nose knows. Follow it to the nearest Annie Ann's. Annie Ann's. Let's get twisted. Football and Miller Lite. Duval's greatest pairing. Can cracks at kickoff. Tailgates going well past postgame. Sunday night overtime. Followed by Monday morning pride. Knocking on bar tops for luck. Kicking back on any given Sunday. You never forget the way some things taste. Jags football tastes like Miller time. Celebrate responsibly. 2023 Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
The kick is up. It's good!
Score winning sub deals this Jaguar season at Firehouse Subs. Receive 50% off on any sub when the Jaguars kick a field goal of 40 yards or more. It's a bold deal for the bold city. Download the Firehouse Subs app for offer details. Redeemable only at participating Jacksonville and Orlando area restaurants. Only available in the Firehouse Subs app. Sims Crane and Equipment is the Southeast premier crane rental company since 1959, serving Florida, Georgia, and Alabama with cranes up to 800 ton for all of your heavy lifting needs. Sims Crane is the Tadano rough terrain crane dealer for the state of Florida. Inspired by the past, committed to the future. Choose Sims Crane and Equipment for all of your heavy lifting needs. Sims Crane is a proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. UNF is a top public university committed to serving the region, a place where visionary minds come together to create effective solutions. With more than 70% of their graduates working in the area, UNF is North Florida's university, offering 100-plus majors, affordable tuition, and programs in high-demand fields. Soar into your future at UNF. Visit unf.edu to learn more.
JP Shadrick from Wembley Stadium in London. Mike Dempsey at the Hyundai Studios. The Publix Tailgate Show continues. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure. The Patriots and the Jaguars, both teams 1-5, meeting in Week 7, 2:30 London time kick, 9:30 in Jacksonville. We're at rainy Wembley Stadium. Hopefully it'll let off a little bit by kickoff. Some players out on the field getting early warm-ups in. The inactives are in for the Jacksonville Jaguars today, led by Travis Etienne Jr. The running back had some limited time in the practice field this week at the Grove, and will not go in this game today for the Jaguars. The rest, let's see, Miles Cole still inactive. Javon Foster, offensive lineman, inactive. Cole Van Lanen as well on the offensive line. Esezi Otomewo will not play in this game, defensive tackle. And Mason Smith, defensive tackle, inactive for the Jaguars today. Mike, do you have the Patriots yet?
I do, as a matter of fact. So much for Mason Smith getting more reps now that Roy Robertson-Harris is no longer here, at least for this week. For the Patriots today, 6 players officially inactive. A pair of wide receivers, Javon Baker and Tyquan Thornton among them. Sione Takitaki, outside linebacker, won't suit up today. Vidarian Lowe, a backup offensive tackle. Jeremiah Farms, a reserve defensive end, and third quarterback Joe Milton III, the 6 inactives for New England.
All right, the inactives are in. It's time to welcome in NFL Network analyst Bucky Brooks, Jaguars.com senior writer John Ozier here at Wembley for a pregame huddle up. Here we are. We just heard Queen. Now we got Oasis on. We're at Wembley. This is about as English as it gets, guys. Good afternoon.
I'm fired up now, Buck.
I mean, like, why would we
saw
be fired
DJ
up?
a minute ago. He's fired up. We're fired up. Football.
Fired up. Football, nice. The weather's a little messy, but it should be fun, though.
The question is, are the Jaguars fired up?
That's the million-dollar question. We won't see until after kickoff because all the good talk, all the goodwill, all the positivity, it goes out the door once they kick the ball up. We'll see how excited this team is to play within the first 5 minutes of the game.
I think they'll be fired up. I thought they were fired up last week. The theme this week, they've had energy. They've talked energy, all those things all week. I thought they came out ready to play last week, and then they ran up against a team that is playing better than them right now. I don't know that will happen this week. I think if they come out strong this week, they're playing a team that should last into the game. So we'll see. That's my theory, JP.
Yeah, we'll see. Let's start with a defense today, and this is a Patriots offensive line, Bucky, that should start at 7th different combination in 7 games today. They've had 4 different guys play left tackle this year, a bunch of centers, a bunch of rotation there. They've got a rookie quarterback behind him. If the pass rush doesn't get home this week, when will it get home?
I don't know, but I think the pass rush really is one-dimensional in terms of it relies on the efforts of Josh Hines-Allen and Trayvon Walker. No one else has really stepped up and shown that they can get after the passer. And so if it's going to be about those 2 guys, it's time to be creative to make sure that they are given the best opportunities to get to the quarterback. Move Josh Hines-Allen around, try and find a weak link for him to work, and then allow Trayvon Walker to beat up the weakest link on that offensive line. We need this unit to be able to dominate up front because they would like to keep 7 in coverage.
Yeah, I think we've seen that. Really, that's been the story dating back to last year in different numbers. Trayvon's got more this year. Josh had more last year. But that's sort of been the issue. Even when those guys have had numbers, JP, it hasn't felt as a team like they have a great pass rush. And it's because the interior hasn't really held up its end of the bargain. I anticipate Trayvon to play well and Josh Hines-Allen to play well because they do. That typically can get you 3-ish if they're playing well, right, on average.
Yeah. Yep.
You sort of need more than that overall. I can't predict it's going to happen. It hasn't happened yet. But at some point, if they're going to be dominant, like you said, JP, that's what's got to happen.
And there could be some changes on the back end of the defense today. Tyson Campbell back. Not sure if it's a full plate for him today, maybe 25, 30 snaps. See how he feels, obviously, with a hamstring coming back off of it for the first time in a while. And then Darnell Savage going on the back end today at safety. They can put Jarian Jones in at nickel today. That's the plan. That's a lot of changing parts, but they need some changing parts in the back end, John. They've had a lot of issues back there.
Well, I think the changing parts, I don't worry about so much because you're putting a starter back in as one of those changing parts at corner. So I think you sort of know what that's going to be. The safety stuff is interesting because that's an area they have needed to improve. They needed to be better. At some point, you've got to do something when you're giving up as much on the back end that should be avoidable stuff that you're giving up. So I would anticipate in a week or so when Dewey gets back, changes.
Right,
that's
Aren't you?
That's the thing.
Aren't you just creative right then?
Well, channel a little.
Bowie.
Yeah, I dig
Bowie,
it.
for those of you who don't know.
I do dig you bringing that in. But, look, I understand why you want to make changes in the back end, particularly at safety. Antonio Johnson was having some tough times when it came to the communication and the execution of the game plan. So now you put a veteran back there. Down there, Savage, the team with Andre Sisco. You move Jarian Jones inside. You have a more athletic nickel to allow you to play some of the man-to-man. And even though Tyson Campbell returns, don't expect him to play a full game. This is one where you need all hands on deck at cornerback. We'll see if those changes can lead to fewer balls flying over the top of the defense. And if you do that, maybe you can force teams to drive the length of the field and get some stops.
Bucky Brooks, John Osier, I'm JP Shadrick. We're at Wembley Stadium, London, ahead of the Patriots-Jaguars matchup in Week 7, both teams at 1-5. The Jaguars offense, a week ago, it was all about the drops and dropped touchdowns. The opening drive dropped touchdown, led to a field goal, kind of set the tone. Quarterback didn't play that bad, John. You've been saying that for a couple weeks. He's been okay, but they haven't been able to complete plays. And the pre-snap penalties, just some mental lack of execution things. This offense can't get over the top right now.
Yeah, I mean, I started off the week saying he played pretty good. The more I looked at the game, played really good. You know, I don't know how many the 4 touchdown drops. He had 2 touchdowns. That's a lot of touchdowns. Yeah. He had those up, JP.
That's right.
So it seems like he's coming out of what was a little bit of an early season funk. People all week have been asking me how does he get better? How does the offense keep getting better? Is it as simple as catch the ball, Buck, at some point?
Well, some of that. And look, the wide receivers have certainly been under criticism for dropping the ball. The 4 touchdown passes, I think 2 of those, maybe 3 of those may have occurred on the same series that resulted in a touchdown. Gabe Davis's drop early was big because the momentum, when you're a struggling team, your confidence is lacking, you need something good to happen. But I would say that it extends beyond the drops. The overall execution of the offense has not been up to par. Penalties, blown assignments, drop passes, just things that you expect the group that has been together to execute at a higher level. They can talk about it. They talk about their practices being spirited and focused, but whatever's happening in practice is not carrying over to good performance in games. That is really the big responsibility of somebody, the head coach, to get them back on track.
And JP, you can't really do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Execution, right? Last week, catch the ball on the first drive. That's 4 more points. Don't fumble, which Evan Ingram, who usually doesn't fumble, start the first half. Start the second half. You get touchdowns at each of those drives. Instead of 21-10, it's 21-21.
Yep.
Those are the little things throughout the course of a game that change the shape. It felt uphill the whole way last week. Those 2 plays, it doesn't feel as uphill. So it's simple things like that.
And keep an eye on Trevor Lawrence today. Remember, he has had in his past issues in wet conditions. He had that infamous 4 fumble game in Philly back in 2022 in the rain there. Rain in the forecast today, wet pitch, all that today. Quickly, about a minute to go, Bucky. No Travis Etienne Jr. What's the expected mix at running back today?
Look, if it's my preference is be a whole lot of Tank Bigsby and not a lot of anybody else. I want to see what he's able to do in his opportunity to be the workhorse back. To me, he's outplayed Travis as a true traditional running back. I want to see Doug Peterson and company give him an opportunity to get a bunch of touches, running between the tackles, setting the tone for an offense that needs more balance.
JP says pitch when he's in the UK, by the way.
Yes.
Well, you got to learn English. I mean, what do you want, John?
So I would expect some Dearness Johnson in passing situations. I still don't know that Tank is the every down, every situation back that you would like him to be. But when it's time to run, it's time for Tank.
Yeah, pass protection, a little bit of a question mark with Tank at times. So you might see Dearness in there in those passing downs. Guys, cheers to you. Have a great day, Bucky. Hope it stays dry down there for you.
Yeah, I'm trying to do some little dances to make the rain go away.
I'll be fine, JP.
Yeah, you're up here. You're up here in the cover, John. That's great. Bucky Brooks and John Osier joining us. And check out the weekly Huddle Up with Bucky Brooks show Wednesdays at 4 o'clock Eastern on Jaguars.com and the Jaguars YouTube channel. We're closing in on Jaguars Radio Network coverage. Countdown to kickoff starting at 8:30 Eastern. Up next, though, a fantasy forecast with Mike Dempsey. And then Frank Franzi joins us here in London ahead of the Patriots and Jaguars matchup. 2:30 London time kick, 9:30 in Jacksonville. And from Wembley Stadium, London, this is the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.
It's game time, Jaguars fans, and Publix knows that football is all about pairings. A high-scoring offense paired with a stingy defense. A rocket-armed QB paired with a dynamic wide receiver. And at Publix, you can pair hot deli chicken tenders with savory dips, delicious sub-platters with ice-cold beverages, and you can pair these tailgate essentials with an entire parking lot full of Jaguars fans chanting, Duval! Gear up for your tailgate at Publix, the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
The power of a great team starts with the right equipment, specialized skills, and the training to win. That's why ASAP Dental Care and the Jaguars have the home team advantage. At ASAP Dental Care, we follow our playbook to perfection to exceed your expectations. Count on us to be there for you 7 days a week to deliver full-service dental care. Score a winning smile with ASAP Dental Care today.
Hey, Jags fans, Extreme isn't always about heat. It's about flavor. And 505 knows flavor. So wake up those sleepy taste buds with 505's new lineup of premium craft salsa. Powered by the bud-kicking boldness of fire-roasted Hatch Valley chilies, 505 salsas are more than enough to bulk up any simple spread. Ignite your sense of boldness with 505's all-new assortment of fiercely fiery flavors featuring 505's new black bean and corn craft salsa. And of course, 505's award-winning flagship flavor, Southwestern style. Want to cruise down an open road in high-performance style? Visit JacksCorvetteGiveaway.com for a chance to win the ride of your dreams. A brand new 2024 Corvette Stingray Coupe. With its sleek design and cutting-edge technology, this vehicle is built for speed and luxury. So what are you waiting for? Enter to win at JacksCorvetteGiveaway.com today. No purchase necessary. Open only to legal residents of the states of Georgia and Florida. 18 years of age and older. Some restrictions apply. Void where prohibited. Ends 11/15/24. For entry information and official rules, visit GoToEventLink.com/rules. Want to be up close and personal with the Jaguars as they take the field? Here's your chance to be in the shadows, outside the Jaguars locker room, now called the Vault. Enter today at EverBank.com/shadows. One winner and a guest for every home game at EverBank Stadium. No purchase necessary to enter or win. Open to legal residents in 50 United States and DC 18 and older. Entry periods for the Shadow Sweepstakes promotion from 8/19/24 to 12/15/24. For official rules and complete details, visit EverBank.com/shadows. Sponsored administrator, EverBank NA, member FDIC.
It's a force that can't be contained, propelled by purpose, pride, and the power to protect. When winning isn't just the mission, it's your passion. You pursue it. You make power plays. You pick your team. At Farrah and Farrah, we deliver game day energy 24/7. Jacksonville.
This is the Publix Tailgate Show. JP Shadrick from Wembley Stadium, London, and Mike Dempsey in the Hyundai Studios, Jacksonville. The New England Patriots and the Jacksonville Jaguars, both teams 1-5. The kickoff time 2:32 officially in London, 9:32 a.m. Eastern in Jacksonville. And time now, Mike Dempsey, for a fantasy forecast. You can get your lineups in early.
All right, JP. Well, you better get them in early if you want to get your Jags and Patriots locked in there. But beyond this game, other news that we're keeping an eye on today. First, the good stuff. Bijan Robinson off the injury report for the Atlanta Falcons. That game's expected to be a shootout. One of the highest scoring totals of the week in Seattle and Atlanta. Tennessee's at Buffalo today. Tyjae Spears is out for the Titans. Tony Pollard has a great matchup against the Bills' run defense. It's been pretty generous this year. Will Levis won't play for the Titans today. Mason Rudolph gets the start, and the Bills expect to debut Amari Cooper after trading for him midweek. Miami's at Indianapolis today. Odell Beckham Jr. is questionable. You shouldn't be playing him in any fantasy leagues anyway until Tua Tagovailoa comes back. You really don't have to necessarily start Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. On the other side, Jonathan Taylor's out, although Michael Pittman Jr., Josh Downs, and Alec Pierce all listed as questionable. All three expected to play at wide receiver today, and Anthony Richardson back in after missing a couple of games due to injury as the Colts starting quarterback. Cincinnati at Cleveland, no Jerome Ford today for the Browns. Nick Chubb, though, will make his season debut, but because Chubb coming off of injury, we don't know what the workload division is going to be like there. I would avoid most Browns backs today if you possibly can. Houston's at Green Bay. Dontavian Wicks questionable to suit up for the Packers, although Christian Watson is 100% healthy. He's off the injury report. Detroit at Minnesota. Aaron Jones is questionable to go for the Vikings. Early reports indicate he should be able to suit up today with an injury that's at various times been described as a groin, a hip, or a hamstring. So I have no idea. TJ Hawkinson will not make his season debut today. I think they're targeting week 9 for that. Dallas Goedert, another high-profile tight end who's not playing today. He is out for Philadelphia against the Giants. In the 4 o'clock window, we'll be keeping our eyes on Deontay Johnson. The Panthers wide receiver has a great matchup with Washington. Expected to go despite a questionable tag. Jonathan Brooks not yet elevated. He had his practice window opened up, yet to make his NFL debut. Kansas City at San Francisco, a Super Bowl rematch. Juju Smith-Schuster questionable for the Chiefs, but expected to be able to play. Juwan Jennings is out for the 49ers. Be careful with Jordan Mason, the running back, who has no injury designation, but an AC joint is one of the most easily aggravated injuries for running backs, and he plays a really tough Kansas City run defense today. Vegas at the LA Rams. You got Jacoby Myers doubtful for the Raiders, and Zamir White's questionable. It's questionable if he should even be on a roster at this point. Cooper Kupp is questionable, but you're not hearing good reports. Likely going to be another week before he returns to the Rams lineup. Finally, tonight, Russell Wilson going to start for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Hopefully that'll open things up for George Pickens, who has struggled so far. Tyler Conklin questionable to go, the Jets tight end, and Devontae Adams expected to debut for New York, pairing up with Aaron Rodgers again. And Adams, despite that pesky hamstring, JP, that was lingering for weeks while he was unhappy, all of a sudden completely healthy and off the injury report.
Amazing how that works. The groin, hip, hamstring combo, I feel that after a 9-hour flight tonight.
Bro, if I walk around the block these days, I'm getting that. So, welcome to our world there, Aaron Jones.
Yeah, that's right. There you have it. Fantasy forecast for Mike Dempsey. We're closing in on countdown to kickoff, about 10 minutes away on the Jaguars Radio Network. Presented by the University of Florida, the #1 university in the U.S. News and World Report's #1 state for education. I was walking down Olympic Way today outside of Wembley, and there was a University of Florida logo on the side of Wembley Stadium, the entire side of the stadium. Frank Frangie, Florida grad, joining us now here at Wembley under the arch. And here we are, the 10th Jaguars game at Wembley. How are you?
We've been a couple seats away every time we do one of these, JP. You're like the mayor of London, and I know that, and so I defer. I always defer when the mayor's around. I know how much you love this trip, but I do too. It's a little dreary today, but it's a fun thing the Jags do, and I'm looking forward to it.
You know what's been dreary? The Jaguars play lately, and their response to how they played. And some of the words that came out of last week's game, startling, I guess, is another word I'll say about it.
Yeah, I think, and everyone's talking about the fact that Andre Cisco said there was some quit. That's become a viral comment. What I sense is more frustration. I don't sense finger pointing, at least from my standpoint, the people with whom I've spoken about this, JP. I think it's a very frustrated Jaguars group. I think they believe they're better than 1-5. I know you are, what your record says you are, but that's what I think they think. I think they feel like the roster is better than the numbers, and that tends to frustrate people. And I think you're seeing that, which is why this game's so important. You probably have the better roster today, but when you have the better roster, you have to win the game. And the last thing you need is to go back with 2 losses here in London. So this is a critical game for all those reasons.
The Jaguars last week put the ball on the deck a few times over at Spurs. And, Evan Ingram had one of those. They dropped the ball a bunch, pre-snap penalties. Today they're going to be without Travis Etienne Jr. And Tank Bigsby's been one of those guys that's put it on the deck a lot over the last couple years. What's your feel in the running game today? Bigsby, Dearness Johnson, and how do they approach this without Travis?
JP, I think Tank's the most important player in the game. And number one, I think it's the kind of day you're going to need to run the ball. It's going to be dreary a little bit. It's that kind of game. It just feels like that. It feels like a December game back in the States, doesn't it? Cooler a little bit, dreary. You don't have Travis Etienne. I think Dearness Johnson's your third down back, but I think this is Tank's game. And you're right. He's got to put the ball away. But, man, I think there's something there, JP. If he can put the ball away, I think he's a downhill runner. They haven't had that in a while. He has shown bursts of that. He's also explosive. He's had the explosive plays that this running game has had this year. He's important, man. He might be the most important guy in the game today, really, for either team, number 4 for the Jags.
Frank Frangie, JP Shadrick from Wembley Stadium in London. And then the Jaguars defensively are the worst pass defense in football. The Patriots offensively are the worst pass offense in football. What gives today and why?
Yeah, I think the Jags will win that matchup. Number one, Tyson Campbell's back. Number two, I think they're finding themselves. Ventrell Miller has become a starter. I think he runs a little better. I heard you and Bucky talking about the changes in the secondary. I think Antonio Johnson's going to be a good player, but I think he's swimming a little bit right now, JP. I think you now have two veterans back there, so I think that'll make a difference. I would think the Jags will win that matchup. The question is, if it's one of those low-scoring games and it's a 17-14 score and we head to the fourth, who makes the big plays? You made the point a moment ago. Your stars have to play well, and the Jags stars have not made as many big plays as they would like, and I think I get the hunch because all the games have, it's coming down to that. I think it's going to be a fourth-quarter game.
Always kind of feels that way, and certainly here in England. All right, so 1-5, got to have it. The pressure cooker is here, and you can hear Doug Peterson. He's been quoted this week as saying he knows what's on the line for him. It always kind of comes down to the head coach when a team doesn't perform well. But the schedule coming up in the next month, I mean, I don't know if it's Murderer's Row, but it is all NFC contenders the next month after today.
You know what's funny about that? Philadelphia notwithstanding, but who had on their bingo card? That's the operative phrase these days, right? Who had on their bingo card the NFC Central would be one of the best divisions in history through the first half of the season? They're 17-5. I don't think anybody saw that coming. Well, guess what the AFC South gets to play?
That's right.
The NFC North. I keep saying Central. The NFC North. Who guessed the NFC North would be this? You know, who believed that all of a sudden Packers, Vikings, Lions, and Bears would all be this good? And the NFC North is great, and you got to play them all. And other than Philadelphia, you get to play them in a row. So it's a tough go. You got to win today. You're right, JP, for all those reasons.
Lucky Jaguars. Yeah, great.
Yeah.
What a schedule ahead. How about your week? I know you were traveling around Europe, man.
We do. When we come over here, my wife comes with me on these 10-day trips, and she loves Ireland, her heritage. She's got family members from there. So we took about 4 days and went to Western Ireland again, and some of the greenest green you've ever seen, JP. And again, while you were over here holding court, some of us got away from all the court holding that you were doing. And so, but we had a great time. I appreciate you asking. My wife had a good time. Yeah. It's a long trip, and it's a good trip, but we've had a fun time. We're ready for some football.
Yeah, ready for football today. Conditions could be an issue. The flags atop the goalposts are moving inside of Wembley today, even with the roof covering most of the seats. It is open air. The rain has stopped for now. It could come back. I mean, this is a longer grass surface than back home, so it's a little slick today, and the wind with the kicking game, it's always interesting here.
And that's what has been to the Jaguars' benefit, JP, is the fact that they know everything you said. They know the wind. They know the turf is a little different. Hopefully it helps today.
Have a great call, Frank. Appreciate it.
Thanks, JP.
Frank Frangie joining us from Wembley. Up next, it's network coverage. Brian Sexton will be back as well. We'll hear from Fred Taylor before the kick and the final word with head coach Doug Peterson ahead of the New England Patriots and the Jacksonville Jaguars. And from London at Wembley Stadium, I'm JP Shadrick. Thanks for listening to the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.
It's game time, Jaguars fans, and Publix knows that football is all about pairings. A high-scoring offense paired with a stingy defense. A rocket-armed QB paired with a dynamic wide receiver.